For weeks, the palace had been a simmering storm of hidden panic and restless murmurs, its cavernous halls thrumming with the jittery energy of staff and aides who instinctively knew that something grave was unfolding behind closed doors. What was happening with Prince Louis? Why had the youngest, most vibrant member of the royal family suddenly disappeared from every public engagement, leaving only silence in his wake? Rumours erupted like wildfire through the corridors, each one darker, more shocking, and more insistent than the last. And then, just minutes ago, King Charles shattered the quiet with a statement that left the world reeling, hearts pounding, and journalists scrambling. His words were heavy, raw, and laden with emotion, carrying a weight that none could have anticipated. This was not just a story of personal tragedy, it was a revelation that was slowly peeling back the gilded curtain, exposing cracks in the monarchy that had quietly deepened over decades. The stakes reached far beyond mere medical concern. Royal calendars marched relentlessly forward. Glittering engagements proceeded as scheduled, yet the sparkle and laughter of young Louis, the boy whose charm had once lit up every room, was conspicuously absent. The palace struggled to maintain a facade of normalcy. Aides insisted he was simply resting, that he was sleeping, yet with each passing day, the absence became impossible to ignore. Staff and courtiers felt a shift in the atmosphere, a tension that was as palpable as the golden chandeliers hanging above them. And outside, the public could sense it too. Social media erupted with feverish speculation, wild theories, and an undercurrent of dark suspicion, each more elaborate than the last. Every blurred photo, every quietly cancelled event, every unanswered question fed a growing maelstrom of dread. Was Louis secretly suffering from an undisclosed illness? Had some hidden accident occurred behind closed doors? Or was there something even more elusive, a truth the monarchy had been desperately trying to hide? With every day of silence, the whispers grew louder, ricocheting through palace corridors and across global headlines. Then, the moment hit, the moment no one was truly ready for. King Charles appeared before the public, visibly burdened, his expression lined with worry and sorrow. His voice, slow, deliberate, and trembling with emotion, revealed a vulnerability rarely, if ever, seen in a reigning monarch. This was no polished, rehearsed speech. It was the raw, unfiltered voice of a grandfather, struggling to articulate truths heavy with guilt, regret, and honesty. He wasn't discussing schedules, appearances, or media optics. He was speaking accountability, mistakes long ignored, and truths that had been swept under the rug for far too long. "This is not just about a young boy," he admitted, his voice cracking under the weight. "It's about everything we've failed to protect." That single line struck harder than any previous royal address. It shifted the narrative instantly, leaving the world in stunned silence. Sources inside the palace described the atmosphere during the address as nearly suffocating. Senior aides reportedly avoided eye contact, fully aware that the silence surrounding Louis's disappearance had been carefully orchestrated. This wasn't happenstance. Every pause, every delay, every cautious move had been meticulously planned long before the world even noticed. Behind closed doors, warnings had been raised, subtle signs observed, and quiet concerns whispered. But too often they were dismissed, postponed, or minimized to maintain the appearance of calm. Something delicate had been lost along the way, and its weight pressed heavily on everyone involved. The focus quickly shifted to William and Catherine. Questions flew. Why wait so long? Why endure the intense scrutiny, the relentless rumours, and the pressure from both media and the public? According to insiders, the decision to remain silent had been driven entirely by fear. Fear of exposure, fear of consequences, fear of how the truth might ripple across the monarchy and the globe. And now, with Charles speaking openly, the carefully curated illusion of serenity had completely crumbled. The story had escaped the palace's control. Truth was breaking free, unstoppable, demanding to be seen and heard. As Charles's voice cracked with emotion, it became apparent that this was far beyond a routine health issue. Beneath the marble floors, golden halls, and glittering chandeliers, unrest and simmering tensions had been quietly brewing for years. Staff had sensed something was off long before the public even caught a hint. Late-night disputes in Kensington's East Wing, urgent after-hours visits from doctors, a nursery growing quieter day by day. These were no accidents. Rumours had hovered over Prince Louis since early childhood, and now the pieces of the puzzle were falling together. The atmosphere in the Louis wing had shifted. Even in a household built on secrecy and tradition, staff who once laughed at the boy's charm now tread carefully, wary of what might be uncovered behind those closed doors. Maids lingered less outside his room, footmen returned pale and silent, a nervous hush replacing familiar banter. Whispers raced through the staff quarters, each tale more urgent than the last. This was not ordinary illness. It was fear, uncertainty, and the looming terror of a truth that no one dared confront. While the public saw happy family photos, Catherine had already begun quietly seeking help from private doctors and specialists outside the official royal channels. These weren't casual checkups. They were full-scale, highly secretive developmental evaluations conducted away from palace clinics and beyond the scrutiny of conventional advisors. Catherine, normally composed and serene, looked exhausted and drained. Her days were a constant balancing act between emotionally taxing consultations with pediatric neurologists and the relentless demands of royal duties. She wasn't seeking to avoid embarrassment. She was searching for understanding, clarity, and protection for her child. Then came the pivotal moment. An ordinary afternoon play session turned catastrophic. Breathless and panicked, an assistant rushed to Catherine. Louis had collapsed suddenly. Silence descended on the room like a tangible force. No bruises, no visible injuries, just the terrifying reality of a sudden, unexplained incident. He was revived by the medical team, but the moment had changed everything. Catherine, shaken to her core, immediately contacted William, leaving a state function within the hour. Together, they withdrew entirely from public life for 2 full weeks. Not all family members grasped the gravity of the situation. Charles, despite his extensive public engagements and diplomatic responsibilities, had been left largely in the dark. Catherine needed time, not punishment, not scrutiny, but time to safeguard her son. Meanwhile, Camilla reportedly erupted with fury, accusing Catherine of overreacting after receiving evasive explanations about Louis's whereabouts. Tensions, already high, escalated further, threatening to ripple across the monarchy. The palace invoked the rarely used royal privacy clause, shutting down media coverage of health-related matters for minors and elderly royals. Legal threats followed swiftly against any leaks, a clause dormant for over 2 decades. Now resurrected with force and authority, but instead of calming speculation, it stoked further distrust. Every attempt by the palace to control the narrative seemed only to amplify the voices outside. The more the palace tried to suppress the story, the louder the world's curiosity and suspicion became. Even courtiers who had once moved with confidence now whispered in corners, exchanging glances that spoke volumes. Each cancelled engagement, each hushed meeting with doctors, each subtle sign of tension became fodder for rumour and speculation. The young prince's absence was no longer just a private matter. It had become a powder keg, threatening to ignite public concern, media frenzy, and family discord all at once. Royal aides moved with caution, acutely aware that every action, every word could be scrutinised and misinterpreted. Physicians consulted in secret, often late at night, to maintain discretion and avoid any official records that could leak to the press. Catherine, under immense pressure, balanced the constant worry for her son's safety with the unrelenting demands of ceremonial duties. Sleep was a luxury she could no longer afford, as her every decision carried consequences for the boy, the family, and the institution itself. The palace staff, seasoned in handling crises, felt a unique strain this time. The situation was unprecedented, Whispered warnings that had previously been ignored now felt urgent, bordering on panic. Every step taken to shield Louis from public scrutiny became more calculated, more deliberate, yet each action also added fuel to the rumors outside. The palace's gilded facade, meticulously maintained for centuries, was beginning to crack, revealing the raw human emotions beneath: fear, guilt, and relentless concern for a child they all adored. And yet, despite all these efforts, the outside world remained relentless. Social media buzzed, news outlets speculated, and public anxiety grew with every passing day. Every image, every statement, every cancelled event intensified the public's curiosity. Meanwhile, inside the palace, each day felt like walking a tightrope, balancing secrecy with the desperate need for care and control with compassion. The situation was a crucible, testing the very fabric of royal life. Catherine's private actions, William's steadfast presence, and Charles's emotionally charged statement collectively revealed a monarchy grappling with unprecedented challenges, both personal and institutional. Every precaution, every whispered consultation, every sleepless night highlighted the gravity of what had been quietly unfolding. In this unprecedented environment, the royal privacy clause became both shield and sword. It aimed to protect, yet it simultaneously inflamed curiosity. Legal threats underscored the seriousness of the situation, but the world watched, speculated, and questioned with increasing intensity. The palace's efforts to control the narrative were being tested like never before. The pressure, secrecy, and anxiety converged into a perfect storm, leaving everyone, from senior aides to junior staff, on edge, unsure what might come next. Even in the opulent surroundings of the palace, the reality of fear, uncertainty, and the fragility of public perception loomed large. The story of Prince Louis was no longer a private matter. It had become a reflection of human vulnerability, familial devotion, and the heavy burden of royalty. In response, the palace invoked the rarely used royal privacy clause, restricting media coverage of health-related matters for minors and elderly royals. Legal action was threatened against any leaks, a clause that had been dormant for over 20 years, now reactivated with unmistakable force. Instead of calming speculation, it intensified mistrust. The more the palace tried to control the narrative, the louder the voices outside became. As royal physicians raced for answers, their findings sparked disagreements, tension, and even conflict within the palace. When King Charles attempted to unify the family amid the crisis, Camilla resisted, pushing back in ways that deepened hostilities. What began as concern quickly escalated into confrontation, with Catherine standing firm, refusing to compromise her priorities or her child's safety. What started out as worry quickly escalated into hostility, as Catherine could not stand it. When Camilla's expanding power distorted the facts around Prince Louis's illness, her involvement initially appeared motivated by good intentions. She offered her condolences, asked how Louis was doing, and even suggested a small family get-together to support William and Catherine. But those tones swiftly changed, revealing a far more strategic and controversial approach than anyone had anticipated. Behind the scenes, during a private luncheon with top aides, Camilla dismissed the rising health concerns as media hysteria. "The press is profiting from panic," she reportedly said. Later, her precise words, "This is just another overblown royal flu," were released, sending shockwaves throughout the palace. By that point, everyone was already emotionally spent. Catherine felt incredibly deceived. From there, the situation only worsened. Reports indicated that Camilla invited select press members to a major royal charity event, while Louis was excused due to a health concern. Cameras were granted unprecedented access, coverage increased, and Camilla took centre stage alongside her grandchildren, all smiling and waving, projecting an image of a bright, flourishing monarchy. This was the breaking point for Catherine. She saw Camilla's actions not merely as inconsiderate, but as a calculated attempt to redirect attention from Louis to her own family legacy. The tension escalated into a rare and explosive confrontation behind closed doors, where Princess Anne stepped in to challenge Camilla directly. Anne, fiercely loyal to Catherine, expressed her distress over the unfolding drama. What began as a heated discussion quickly intensified. Camilla reportedly accused Anne of undermining her, claiming that no one was supporting the monarchy. The atmosphere in the room turned icy. For days, those words reverberated through the palace corridors. Charles, caught between leadership and familial loyalty, attempted to mediate, but Camilla remained unyielding. She argued that Catherine's control over media narratives had spiraled out of control, creating division and fear within the family. She suggested replacing key media liaisons and enforcing stricter communication rules, while simultaneously advocating that her own grandchildren receive greater public attention. Strategic press releases shifted the royal spotlight to the Parker Bowl family. Features, photos, and planned events ensured maximum visibility for Camilla's grandchildren. Yet, all this manoeuvring occurred at the expense of the emotional toll on Catherine and William, who were navigating the private crisis of Louis's illness. A late-night strategy session became the tipping point for William. In a moment of anguish, he confronted his father, denouncing Camilla's behavior as callous and disdainful. He accused her of rewriting legacy lines for personal gain, exploiting a deeply personal family crisis. It was intimate, raw, and unfiltered. The turmoil deepened when Prince Harry made a shocking revelation. During Louis's quiet struggle, Harry disclosed the very secret Catherine feared would surface. In a rare interview, he suggested that Louis had been doomed not by chance, but due to long-standing, systemic issues within the monarchy itself. Charles reportedly reacted with shock to Harry's precise, personal statements, which seemed calculated and meticulously planned rather than impulsive. Harry outlined how institutional customs prioritized appearance over action, ignoring early warnings. His words implied catastrophic negligence. A genetic issue affecting certain branches of the royal family had been known to Charles for years, yet kept secret in the name of reputation and continuity. Meghan later echoed Harry's allegations, emphasizing that even a child's well-being had been subordinated to the throne's image. Catherine, blindsided and betrayed, reportedly fainted from the stress of the ongoing interviews. Every replay, every news segment revealed more. For the public, the story became a spectacle. For Catherine, it was a deeply personal violation. She sobbed in private, her distress amplified by the relentless scrutiny and the unfolding accusations. Louis remained vulnerable, his suffering now visible on a global scale. As the palace attempted to contain the fallout, the monarchy found itself teetering on the edge of one of its most fragile moments in decades. This is no longer solely about Prince Louis's health. It is about trust, transparency, and whether an institution rooted in centuries of tradition can withstand such public exposure. A mother fought tirelessly to protect her son, a father wrestled with systemic flaws, and a king admitted his own regrets. Across the Atlantic, a prince ignited a fire whose impact may never fully fade. If even a fragment of Harry's claims is true, the consequences extend far beyond the walls of Buckingham and Kensington. And if the claims are exaggerated, the damage caused by mere perception and misrepresentation is equally profound. The image of unity, which the Crown has so diligently maintained, is cracking under the weight of silence and strategic missteps. Beyond the palace gates, public scrutiny reached unprecedented levels. Social media erupted with speculation, and news outlets dissected every word and gesture. Analysts debated whether this scandal would permanently alter the monarchy's image. Meanwhile, the family itself struggled to navigate the delicate balance between private grief and public expectation. The pressures of tradition clashed painfully with the harsh reality of transparency, leaving no room for mistakes. Prince Louis may be out of sight, but the battle over his story is fully in public view. What happens next will not only shape headlines, it could redefine the very future of the royal family. Every statement, every gesture, every carefully crafted appearance will be analysed as the world witnesses this extraordinary chapter in real time. We want to hear from you. What do you think should happen next? How can the family restore trust while protecting Prince Louis's privacy? Share your thoughts and perspectives in the comments below. Your voice is part of this conversation. And for those following this unprecedented saga, be sure to subscribe. By subscribing, you'll get timely updates on every development, exclusive insights into behind-the-scenes palace dynamics, and full coverage of how this story unfolds. Stay connected so you don't miss a single moment of this high-stakes drama, and be part of the ongoing discussion about the future of the royal family. Because while Prince Louis may be hidden from public view, the ramifications of his story will continue to unfold. From strategic power plays to emotional family conflicts, this is a narrative that will shape royal history. Stay with us, comment, share your perspective, and subscribe to witness every turn in this extraordinary, real-life drama, because this chapter is far from over, and the world is watching closely.